The wind carried dust and silence across the wide stretch of Willow Creek as the sun sank behind the canyon ridge. The ranch lay still, its fences old, its barns gray with the memory of better years. From the porch of a small, leaning house, a woman stood with her arms wrapped around herself, staring down the long road that led nowhere. Her name was Evelyn Carter, and she had once been a woman with laughter in her heart and a husband's arm around her waist. But now, she was only a mother, with a little girl who was her whole world and a pile of debts that had taken everything else. Inside, Lily, no older than 7, sat on the worn rug, brushing the mane of a wooden horse her father had carved before he died. She hummed softly, her voice light but filled with the kind of sadness children shouldn't know. When she looked up, her mama was staring out again, eyes searching for something, someone, to save them. Life hadn't been kind since James Carter's accident last winter. The snows came early and heavy, and his horse slipped on the frozen creek bed, throwing him into the rocks. He'd been gone before dawn the next day, leaving Evelyn with a dying ranch, a little girl, and no money to keep the place afloat. Every ranch hand had left by spring, and the neighbors who once waved from their porches now avoided her eyes. The bank had sent its warnings. The pantry shelves grew emptier by the week. Evelyn tried to stay strong, for Lily's sake, but strength was a heavy thing to carry alone. That afternoon, as the sky bruised into twilight, a figure appeared down the dirt road. A tall man on horseback, broad-shouldered and silent as the mountains behind him. His hat was pulled low, his shirt dusty, his face rough from the trail. But there was something steady about him, something that made Evelyn's breath catch before she could stop it. The horse slowed near the fence, snorting softly, and the man dismounted, tying the reins loosely. Evelyn stepped off the porch, wary but polite. "Evelyn, stranger," she said, voice careful. "You lost." The man shook his head. "Just passing through. Needed water for my horse." His voice was deep, slow, the kind that carried without effort. "You can draw from the trough," she replied. "Creek runs clean." He nodded his thanks and moved toward the water pump. As he worked, Lily peeked out from behind her mama's skirt, clutching her little horse. Her blue eyes, so much like her father's, studied the stranger. He noticed her and smiled faintly, the first hint of warmth in his rugged face. "Hey there, little one." Lily hesitated, then whispered, "Your horse is pretty." He chuckled low. "He'll like hearing that. His name's Dusty. You wanna pet him?" She looked to her mama for permission. Evelyn gave a soft nod, and Lily ran forward, small hand trembling as she touched the horse's mane. The stranger watched her with a quiet tenderness that surprised even him. He hadn't seen a child smile like that in a long time. Not since before his own family had been taken by fever years ago. When he lifted his gaze again, Evelyn was watching him too. For a long moment, neither spoke. The wind filled the silence between them like a sigh. Finally, he said, "Name's Caleb Rourke. Used to ranch up north before the fire took it all. Been ridden ever since." "I'm sorry," she said softly. He tipped his hat. "Seems we all got ghosts." They shared a small, sad smile that felt like understanding. The morning after the storm broke over Willow Creek, the world smelled of rain and cedar, and the sky stretched clean as glass. Evelyn woke to the sound of hammering outside, steady, certain blows that seemed to beat with the same rhythm as her pulse. Through the window she saw Caleb repairing the corral fence that had fallen months ago, sleeves rolled, jaw set in quiet determination. In the weeks since that first evening he had stayed on, saying he'd just work until she found help, but each day turned into another, and soon it felt wrong to picture the ranch without him. He rarely spoke of his past, yet every action carried the weight of someone who had lost too much to ever take peace for granted. Lily adored him. She followed him through the pastures like a shadow, laughing again, singing again, her little boots leaving bright prints in the red mud. Evelyn watched them sometimes from the porch, heart aching at the sight, because for the first time since James's death, she saw light in her daughter's eyes. Still, part of her held back. Grief has a way of guarding the door even when love knocks softly. But life has its own timing, and sometimes it's a child who opens the door for you. That evening the bank man came again with papers in his hand and numbers that spelled the end of everything. Evelyn's hands shook as she read. The ranch would be taken within the week. She didn't cry until Caleb stepped forward and quietly said, "How much?" She told him, voice breaking, and he simply nodded. The next morning he rode out before dawn and didn't return until sunset, dust-caked and exhausted, a folded receipt in his pocket. He handed it to her. "It's paid," he said. "Place is yours." She stared at him as if he'd spoken another language. "Why would you do that?" He looked away toward the horizon where the sun bled red into the hills. "Because this land still breathes," he murmured, "and so do you. I reckon both deserve a chance." The words struck deeper than he knew. That night she found him by the barn, patching a saddle, and before fear could stop her, she said the truth she'd been swallowing for weeks. "You saved more than a ranch, Caleb. You saved us." He met her eyes, those storm-gray eyes softening. "Maybe you saved me first." For a long moment the only sound was the wind moving through the grass, and then his rough hand closed gently around hers. No promises, no grand speeches, just two broken hearts finally finding the same beat. Days turned into months. The fences stood straight again, calves filled the pastures, laughter filled the kitchen. But one night in late autumn, Lily fell ill with a fever that burned fierce and fast. Evelyn sat by her bed, terrified, whispering prayers into the dark. Caleb rode through the storm to fetch the doctor from town, lightning splitting the sky, mud swallowing the trail. He returned hours later, soaked and shaking, the doctor close behind. For 2 days they fought the fever together, taking turns by the bedside until finally, as dawn spilled gold across the room, Lily's breathing steadied and her small hand squeezed Evelyn's. When she opened her eyes, she looked at Caleb and whispered, voice raspy but clear, "Please marry my mama, mister. She's all I have now." The room went still. Evelyn covered her mouth, tears spilling, and Caleb blinked hard, heart pounding with something too big for words. He leaned close and brushed Lily's hair from her face. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "your mama's got more courage than any woman I ever met. If she'll have me, I'd be the luckiest man alive." Evelyn's voice trembled. "You mean that?" He nodded. "With everything I got left." Lily smiled before sleep took her again, safe at last. Spring came early the next year. The peach trees bloomed along the fence line, and laughter echoed off the canyon walls as the small wedding gathered beneath the old oak behind the house. There were only a few neighbors, a preacher from town, and one stubborn dog who refused to sit still, but it was perfect. Evelyn wore a simple white dress she'd sewn herself. Caleb stood tall in a clean shirt and his father's hat. When he took her hands, the calluses met and fit like puzzle pieces. "You sure about this, darlin'?" he asked, smiling just a little. "I been sure since the day you fixed that fence," she answered. Lily ran up after the vows, throwing wildflowers at their feet and shouting, "Now we're a real family." Caleb lifted her high into the air and laughed, a sound that felt like sunlight. And as the breeze swept through Willow Creek, carrying the scent of blossoms and the faint hum of a new beginning, Evelyn knew that sometimes the heart doesn't heal by forgetting, it heals by finding home again. That night, under a sky scattered with stars, the three of them sat on the porch, mother, daughter, and the man who'd walked out of the dust to become their tomorrow. Caleb's arm rested around Evelyn's shoulders, Lily asleep between them. The crickets sang, the creek murmured, and peace settled like a soft blanket over everything broken that had been made whole again. "Guess this is what folks mean by grace," Caleb whispered. Evelyn smiled through happy tears. "No," she said, leaning against him. "This is what they mean by love." If you felt this story in your heart, hit subscribe and stay with us for more tales of courage, love, and second chances beneath western skies. White Heart Rice Plant.